But let me start by introducing to you to Marianne Sayoc. She's connected from the Philippines, and she's the general manager of East West Seed. And also to Ido Verhagen, is that how we say it?
Verhagen.
Verhagen. I'm never going to get the Dutch names right. I'm sorry. Verhagen.
Verhagen. Ido.
Okay. And he's Executive Director of Access to Seeds Indexed, and they will talk to both of us. I will read a little bit about each of them so we know whom we have in front of us, and then I will pass the word to them so that they can make a short presentation, and then we will just do an interaction of questions and answers as we normally do. So I think that Mary, you're going to go first, is that right? Given that you are further away, are you connected? I hope she is.
She was.
Yeah, I am. Actually, Ido will go first.
Oh, Ido will go first. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have a joint presentation, and Ido is the Executive Director, as I said, of Access to Seeds Index. And this is an initiative that is funded by the Melinda and Gates Foundation and also by the government of the Netherlands. And what they are trying to do with this index is to measure and compare what seed companies do to improve the access of quality seeds for small farmers. Prior to starting the Access to Seeds Index, Ido has been active as a boardroom consultant, assisting companies, big companies like KLM, Heineken, Philips, and TNT on all aspects of sustainability. So I don't want to go, make further. Thank you very much for being with us. I think you are in the Netherlands, if I'm correct. So we will pass the microphone to you, and please take it from here, and then we'll start with Marianne. Marianne, I will introduce you before you start speaking. The floor is yours, Ido.
Okay, thank you so much, Ethel, and thank you for the invitation. And it's a very important topic has the attention of the WorldBank. And one of the drivers behind the Access to Seeds Index is to investigate how the private sector can contribute to achieving global goals such as nutrition security. And I want to share with you some insights of our research related to the vegetable seed industry. And when you look at this map, you see that malnutrition as a result of micronutrient and vitamin deficiencies is widespread in Africa and Asia. And well, the smartest way to tackle this is to help farmers in these regions to grow more and more nutritious foods. And if you talk about nutritious food, you talk about vegetables. And we all know that the agricultural landscape in these regions.
Go to telepresence system.
Please ask everyone that is connected to mute your phones.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So we know that the agricultural landscape in these regions is dominated by small farms. And we also know from studies that a lot can be achieved by improving agricultural practices. This doesn't need to be too fancy. Irrigation, seed beds, planting seedlings. When small farmers use the seeds that they normally use and they use improved agricultural practices, they can double the yields. But these experiments also show that when they use the quality seeds that are brought to them by companies, they can sometimes even grow their yields 5 times. So we were interested to investigate what seed companies are doing to make their seeds available in these regions. So if we go to the next slide. We have evaluated the efforts of the global seed companies to make quality seeds available for small farmers, which in the end results in a ranking. And the total score of a company is the sum of how companies score on specific areas, such as R&D, marketing, and capacity building. And each color corresponds to such an area. And we see an increasing interest in seeds in the seed industry, but it is almost always about field crops, maize and wheat. And the Access to Seeds Index is one of the few initiatives that also focuses on the vegetables. And we do this vegetables for nutrition, but also because vegetables are a great opportunity for smaller farmers to, with their small plots, to build a profitable business. So for smallholders, nutrition and profitability go hand in hand when they are active in vegetables. What you see on the right is the 2016 ranking of global vegetable seed companies, and it's topped by East West Seed. And this may come as no surprise because it is the only global operating seed company that is really specialized in working for smallholder farmers. But it's still a very interesting example for the rest of the seed industry because it also shows that it's possible to build a business model that works for both the company as well as for seeds, as well as for smallholder farmers. And for many of the other companies, the seed smallholder market is still relatively new, and they are still exploring it. But the good news is that they are all looking into it, so they are taking it seriously. If we move to the next slide. Well, the first thing, what you want to know is whether the seed industry is active in these regions where smallholders are active. And in contrary to what's often said and thought, they are. If you look at Latin America, East Africa, and South Asia, there are many global seed companies present there, so that's a good start. There is an exception of West Africa. Not many global operating seed companies are active in that region. If there are any seed companies active there, it's vegetable seed companies. And companies tell us that this has a lot to do with the enabling environment. Our seed laws and regulations, countries are working on regional harmonization, but it often lacks implementation. So when I want to talk about barriers, there's one, especially in this case related to IP protection. If we move to the next slide. Not only the global seed companies that we have looked at, there's also a whole regional landscape of regional operating seed companies, equally important. We did this in Eastern Africa. And what we found very interesting is that the top 5 includes 4 companies that are coming from the region. And they outperform the bigger multinationals in our ranking because they just go one step further on very important topics as working for women farmers, breeding for local crops, or reaching remote villages. So the important message here is that regional companies should not be overlooked as a partner to reach smallholder farmers. And this also becomes apparent when you look at the portfolios. So, on the right, the blue dots are the crops or the seeds that are brought to the region by global companies, and the yellow dots are the number of regional companies. And so you see that the regional companies complete the available vegetable seed portfolio. So they bring a larger diversity of crops to the region. The next slide. For each company, we have scorecards, which shows on the left their individual strength, in the middle their portfolio, and on the right their presence. And when you look at the portfolio, I show this example of East African seed company based in it's quite typical for many of the regional companies. They have a broad portfolio. They work on field crops, vegetables, and also on local crops. But most of the time, they don't have their own breeding programs in vegetables. So they source their varieties from global companies or from public research institutes such as the World Vegetable Center. So when it comes to bringing new varieties to the region, the source of those varieties are global companies and public research institutes. Next slide. And I want to share with you some examples of how companies are operating, and I follow the pathway of breeding, distribution, and adoption. Breeding are lengthy processes. It often takes 10 years before you have a new variety that you can bring to the market. But there's also a fast track. There are huge numbers of varieties already available on the shelves of seed companies, seed banks, and public research institutes that just require testing, such as you see on the left, Sakata Japanese company is doing in Senegal. So within a few seasons of testing, new varieties can brought to the market. But we also see some companies active in breeding, like in Tanzania, and they have just brought their first variety to the market, which took about 10 years to develop. One big barrier here is that seed companies have difficulties to find local breeders and local agronomists. So there's a huge challenge for education to get more, to educate more local breeders to connect those companies to the small farmers. And also some companies have told us that they've put off plans to develop new breeding stations because they just can't find the right staff. Next slide. In distribution, well, of course, the smallholder market requires tailored packaging. A practice that you see a lot on the left is that retailers have to repackage the seed, which has immediate effects on the quality, but also creates opportunities for counterfeit. And companies can tackle it by using small packages, and that also creates the opportunity to provide infographics for illiterate clients. And some companies are already doing this. There's also a challenge because farmers like those cans, and retailers like those cans because they can use it for other purposes. So it's not always easy. Next slide. And adoption, well, farmers like to see what they get. And sometimes companies organize their own field days to which they invite farmers to see how crops grow and if it works for their environment. And sometimes they use demonstration or lead farmers, as you see on the left. And those lead farmers show in their villages to their neighbors which seeds they use and how they grow. And that's just a great way for farmers to see what they can do. Some companies also go a step further by providing extension services, such as you see on the right, East-West Seeds in Mali. And well, providing these services would normally be a role for governments, but reach and quality of public extension services is not always up to standards. So that's why companies step in. And it's of course great that companies are doing this, but it's obvious that they cannot reach millions of smallholder farmers. So governments should step up their efforts here, and either by professionalizing their services or by subsidizing the services of others. Next slide. Well, when you visit those demonstration plots or field days and you talk to farmers, their selection criteria always relate to profitability. Yield, days to harvest, local suitability, resistance, shelf life, and market acceptability. Nutrition is not part of their decision process, which indicates probably that it's also not something that consumers ask for, which immediately has effect on seed companies. They tell us they can do more on improving nutritional value, but it requires a demand. So there's also, we can do a lot of work on the supply side, but there's also some work to do on the demand side. Next slide. Yeah, to sum up, there are a lot of opportunities. Like I said, with vegetables, profitability and nutrition go hand in hand. There are already many varieties available in seed banks and research institutes that require testing, so you can bring it to the market in a few seasons. And we see a rise of tailored business models from seed companies for smallholder farmers. There are also barriers. Nutritional value currently plays a limited role in the choices that farmers and consumers make, and thus it plays a limited role in breeding programs of seed companies. National seed law, regional harmonization, lack of implementation, so enabling environment is an issue. And the lack of local breeders and agronomists to connect companies to farmers is also an issue. So there's a challenge for education. And this was for my part, and now I move to Marianne.
Thank you very much, Ido. This was very, very interesting. Mary is the general manager of East-West Seed in the Philippines. We have heard a lot about East-West in the previous presentation and how well the company ranks in the index that was just described. And this company works in research, production, distribution of vegetable seeds, primarily in Asia, but also in Latin America and starting to work in Africa too. Before joining the company, Mary used to work in government, and she was the regional director of the Department of Agriculture and the executive director of the Agriculture Training Institute. And she is currently the president of the Philippine Seed Industry Association. She knows a lot about seeds and a lot about vegetables, and I hope we can get from her really how to make this. I'm very curious, Mary. I'm sure you're going to address this, but how do you make it work, and how do you make this profitable from a private sector point of view? Going to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ethel, for the kind introduction. Let me start by giving a brief introduction about East-West Seed. We introduced market-oriented plant breeding in Southeast Asia in 1982, with the main focus on developing improved vegetable varieties that are adapted to local markets and growing conditions. We have 35 years of experience in the vegetable seed business, and we are one of the 10 largest vegetable seed companies in the world. Now, in the next slide, we will see that East-West Seed holds a leading market position in the most important Southeast Asian markets. So we have expanded our business activities in India, China, well, you have mentioned already Latin America and Africa. Now, next slide, please. Now, East-West Seed's 35 years of experience in the vegetable seed business tell us that profitable farming cannot be achieved with having quality seeds alone. Good agronomic practices have to be in place to realize the optimum potential of improved varieties. Hence, East-West Seed is actively engaged in knowledge transfer activities to lay down the foundation for market development. As Ido mentioned, our business model is centered on smallholders. And these smallholder farmers, vegetable farmers, till the area of less than 1 hectare of land. And we promote technical rather than product info. We change farming practices to more profitable, sustainable techniques, and we create foundations for future sales. So in 2016, we have trained 46,782 smallholder farmers on vegetable farming. Next slide, please. Now, the challenges facing the vegetable industry are many. Farmers work in a harsh environment characterized by hot, humid climate, heavy rains, and climate change and extreme weather disturbances like typhoons, El Nino and La Nina make farming more challenging. This kind of environment results to high pest and disease pressure. Farmers lack access to technology, basic infrastructure like farm-to-market roads, post-harvest facilities, and other challenges include high cost of production inputs, diverse growing conditions and farming systems, inefficient supply chain, and highly variable consumer preferences. Next slide, please. But there are also bright prospects of the vegetable industry. The major market drivers are enlightened consumers who have increasing health and food safety consciousness, who would buy vegetables produced according to good agricultural practices and natural farming systems. Modern food retailing, like supermarket chain, will influence the market for vegetables. But what does this mean for smallholder vegetable farmers? To enjoy the economic benefits of vegetable farming, farmers must produce what the market wants in terms of quality, variety, and food safety. Government and the private sector can help improve smallholder skills through training, for example, on good agricultural practices. Also, closer link with modern retail can result to higher farm gate prices for smallholders. If we go to the next slide, so what's the way forward? I think there is a need to promote increased vegetable consumption, and this can be done through promoting home gardening, urban agriculture, and even school vegetable gardens. Also, new and creative ways of cooking vegetables, to make eating vegetables more attractive to children. Fast food chains and ties to include vegetables in their menu, and also partnership with retailers, supermarket chains to feature health benefits of vegetables. If we go to the next slide, there is a need to improve profitability, and this can be done through use of quality seeds of improved varieties and sustainable crop production, protection, and post-harvest technologies. Next slide, please. There is also a need to modernize the supply chain. Good post-harvest handling and storage is very important, of course, to reduce wastage, reducing the layers of traditional supply chain, direct contractual arrangements between farmers and retailers would help a lot in making it more profitable for farmers. Getting farmers organized to form marketing clusters. And there is a need for more investment in the supply chain. Next slide, please. Now, these are just a sample of a success. I have two success stories to show how we have helped smallholders. They used to be really small, but now they have transitioned to commercial smallholders. This is a farmer in one of the provinces in the Philippines. He started growing vegetables in 1990. He used to be a tricycle driver. Now he plants 25 hectares of land to vegetables. He earns like $78,000 a year on hybrid bitter gourd and also on hybrid tomato. He exclusively plants hybrid varieties, and he employs at least 200 individuals from the community each cropping season, because we know that, farming is quite intensive, so we can generate employment. We have here a simple cost and return analysis. If you look at the main inputs, labor make the most of it, and seeds is only actually 5% of the total production cost. And if we go to the next slide, we see here the cost and return analysis with several scenarios, a low price, maybe during the main season, an average price, and a high price. So this is what we teach the farmers. It's better to produce vegetables off season when, especially tomatoes, when prices are high. So with a low price, you see that the net income is low, but with a medium and with a high price, then the farmer can really make, a good profit out of tomato farming. And then just the next slide, very briefly, this is also another farmer, a woman farmer from the southern part of the Philippines, from Mindanao. And she used to be an overseas worker, but then she wanted to spend more time with the family. She came back, to the Philippines and was encouraged to go into vegetable farming. And now she employed modern farming technologies and was even given an award as a farmer scientist by the Department of Agriculture. And she was able to send all her children to school through vegetable farming. So that ends my presentation. Thank you.